Hello, I'm M.K.Davis. The video you're about to see is around a campfire, and some Bigfooters are talking, and it's a rather candid talk, and it's about an adventure that this gentleman had. The gentleman's name is Ron Roseman, and the adventure that he had was when he went on an expedition in the Siskyou wilderness with the late Richard Greenwell and his son Darwin. Richard Greenwell, if you're not familiar with him, was president of the International Cryptozoological Society, I believe, the ICS, and a scientist of great credentials. And when Ron tells his story, what it does is really it humanizes a really great man, and it's very candid, it's humorous, and you realize that these people are just like you and me, with the exception that they have this unusual interest, and then they go out and they go into these wild places, and they really put themselves in harm's way or at risk, and so it all turns out it's all's well that ends well, and it's funny, and you realize that when you lose someone like Richard Greenwell, and all the rest of the those others that we've lost over the years, it's such a tremendous loss in resources and knowledge and experience, and I want to thank Ron Roseman for sitting around this campfire and telling us this this humorous story about one of the greats, Richard Greenwell. So let's listen.
I'm more of a hobbyist in this than really having a lot of experience at it. A lot of people here have a heck of a lot more experience than me, obviously. But my big work to do, we went into the Siskiyous with 500 pounds of equipment, and we had horses.
Just want to make sure we don't go hungry, huh?
And dropped us off, and we were there for a month. But I want to try to interchange the activity, because I didn't see anything, didn't see track. The strata there was too hard, too difficult to.
Where's Ray going?
Right behind you. What? The ground was too hard for tracks. But so to make this interesting, I'm going to tell you about a few sounds, and it's interesting. I can relate a little bit there on what Jason had to do on his recording, because it's very close to what we had heard back now. I'll save that for a little later. But the experience, the overall thing, all of this is not just necessarily about Bigfoot. It's about experiences, if you like nature. And a lot of the people that are involved in this like nature and mystery and the wilderness and being alone or getting out in the areas and stuff like that, investigating, especially something like this. But the nature part of it is really fantastic. And we really had some exceptional experiences and things that I don't want to scare anybody about going into the woods, but this is 40 miles from the nearest outpost of this people. It was very difficult terrain, very difficult to back into. We had to do a lot of extensive hiking. In fact,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear where you were at.
Siskiyou, Northern California. There's some people still don't want me to give the exact location, because there is Bigfoot activity there. We have a lot of reasons for believing that. But when we got back in this area, we finally set the base camp up. The next morning, I was going out by a tree and walking. I've seen a bear track about the size of the track that Tom Powell has. on a black bear, but obviously the bear had been watching us through the night, you know. And the bear was actually stalking us. And fortunately, we had our pistols. But the next night, it come around. It left the evidence that it did that. And, in fact, I think it was the next day that we smelled, because we had our separate tents set up. And the tent that Richard Greenwell and his son were staying in during the heat of the day. It was extremely cold at night and extremely hot in the daytime. Extreme changes in the temperatures, but during the daytime, during the afternoon, you start smelling this odor or whatever, and we pinpointed it was on the tent. And so we got a pretty good guess that the bear had actually, during the night, the second night, it came by and urinated on the tent, right on the doorway. And the third morning, I had my tent directly looking at the tree where we had food on the ground, and I think that's a mistake myself. I don't know who agrees or disagrees with that, and I suggested that before, but they said no, it doesn't make any difference. But anyway, we had one 60-pound bag of food about 15 feet in front of my tent, and I heard the wrestling with our utilities, our utensils and stuff like that, the clanging on it, and I look and hear this bear is right in front of me, and I'm not saying anything, and he's making a racket or whatever, and Richard has a tendency to sleep in the morning. We stay up late at night, and he said, "Ronnie, knock that off." I said, "Knock what off?" "I'm not knocking it off. I'm not doing anything." He says, "What is it?" I said, "It's a bear." He said, "A bear? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me?" So he gets up. I got my screen there. I'm not getting out of my tent. I got a .357 Magnum in one hand, and I got mace in the other. And I'm staying behind that screen.
Which one does Ronnie do?
Richard got out of the tent. It's comical. He got out in his shorts and long johns, whatever it is. And he got out, and the bear's there, and the bear's not moving. And he fires a shot off. Well, the bear takes off in the woods. I can't see him shooting the gun off. He's off to that side, my blind side. Well, he runs after the bear. And he takes off the woods after it. And I'm sitting there watching through the screen. And here, about 30 seconds later, Richard's running back out with his pistol in his underwear, running back out this way with the bear behind him. I definitely am not getting out of my tent. So he runs out there. The bear stops right where the food is. So Richard gets back over here to the side again. He fires again. The bear's not moving this time. He throws a chair at him. He throws a rock at him. That bear ain't moving. Wow. And he had been building up his courage all this time to come in. And so he grabs a 60-pound bag of food, and he runs through the woods, and he takes off. And so Richard's running his underwear after the bear around the tree and stuff this way, and his son's running out behind him. I'm sitting outside of the tent by this time. I got enough nerve with the bear gone to get outside of the tent. And you can tell I'm not a real brave person. But I'm sitting there, and I'm going to put my shoes on because I know we got to get this food back. We're back there for a month, and that's part of our stuff that we need. And they're running out, and Darwin's his son's running out that way, and he says, "What are you not so nice. What the F are you doing?" I said, "Put my shoes on." He says, F your shoes." And I thought, well, he's right, but it's hard ground and gravel, so I thought, time's of the essence. So I run behind him, barefooted, on the rocks, and we're chasing the bear up the hill. And
you know what time it is?
Now or then?
Yeah. No, what time is it right now?
I have.
Then is better.
Take my medication.
The bear, he runs up the side of he's running up the side of the hill, and he knows we're after him, so he turns around, faces all three of us.
Thank you.
Drops the 60-pound bag, and I had read on bears before I went back into this area, and one of the signals they give you is, I guess they put I don't remember on the ears, I think they tell the back letter, but they do this motion with their head.
Yes.
And that's exactly what that bear did when he dropped and faced us. And as soon as he did that, Darwin says, shoot, and we all three fired and we dropped the bear. But that was kind of a long story in itself, wasn't it? But anyway, this is my first experience with something like that. So, I mean, and this is like the first couple of days, and we got like almost a month to go. And I think, you know, wow, bears are not supposed to bother you. But we checked it out, and or Richard did, and the bear did, since scissors were worn down and claws and everything, and he probably had a hard time eating. It was an old bear, but a good sized bear, but it was old, and that's probably why it did that. But anyway, the bear's there. After a few days, the bear starts stinking, so we have to move our camp. So we move our camp up a mile or mile and a half or whatever, and we set it up. Well, now we split up. We split up teams. We had a base camp or whatever, and I'm a mile from the base camp. I want to throw this other little story in here. There's a lot of them like this. But in fact, I might keep going until you shut me off. But it's just funny stuff. And me and Darwin, that's Richard Greenwell's son, we bucked heads as soon as we got into the woods. He didn't show much respect to me, and I didn't show much back to him. And that's another story in itself. And I still don't think the Bigfoot was stealing our lifesavers and oatmeal all that time either, necessarily. He was in control of distributing the food, and he had a voracious appetite. We really get into that. We were out there, and we had orangutan urine from a menstruating female. They got from Jeff Milgram, and towards the end of the deal, which might have had something to do with that sound, we don't know. I mean, how do you know when you use an attractants? But we had, out in the daytime, from this valley, whatever, nothing but wood. It's so dense and so thick when you get back in there, after you go about a mile or so, it's impossible to penetrate. You cannot get back in there. But we figured that maybe these things are down in this area, and they cross this ridge, and from that point going to another one, to the other side of this ridge. That's why we were in this location strategically. But anyway, we put the orangutan urine out there, and out there putting it on the brush and the ground from the mountainside all the way down to the point. And the deal was that Darwin was supposed to stay out there all night just in case something gets attracted to that. And well, we got his location where he was going to be pinpointed, and he was right behind a big rock. We had a good view. We had all the night equipment, illuminators and everything, and where he could have good visual. And so his father was up on the mountainside. He's going back and forth, putting this orangutan urine all over, and he comes right up to that rock where Darwin's standing. He says, "Dad, I'm going to be here all night. What are you doing?" And I'll bring it right up here so you can get a good view of something. He says, "Dad, we're trying to attract a male Bigfoot, maybe in heat, with a orangutan urine from a female." And they got in a big argument over that. He says, "This is the interest of science," Dad said. And he said, "Dad, I'm not standing here all night, but that's led right up to my rock right here where I'm at." And they argued, and he said, "Well, forget it. We won't do this, and this and that." We argued all the way back to, or they did, I didn't. They argued all the way back to the tent. And Darwin went back in his tent, and he's sitting. We were all, the other three of us were sitting outside. I wasn't saying anything, and in fact, I surprised myself even defending Darwin, but after they got through screaming at each other or whatever about going out there under those conditions or whatever, Darwin yelled out from the inside of the den. He says, "God, does anybody understand? Does anybody agree with me out there?" And I said, "Yes, Darwin." I says, "On this one, I have to agree with you. I wouldn't want to be standing out there either trying to attract a male Bigfoot right up to the rock with this administrating urine around you there."
I want to thank Esther Schroeder for recording that piece of footage and those priceless moments and sharing them with me. So, Esther, thank you very much. And I thank all of y'all for your time.